Welcome, everyone, to Prop It Up. It's 4 o'clock Eastern time on a Friday. We're getting your weekend kicked off with hopefully some winning plays. Joining me, as always, Andrew McInnis and mid-major Matt. Guys, unfortunately, we don't have any more basketball. That's a bummer. But we do have baseball, and we got a lot of football. Hopefully we keep all of our NFL games going. Matt, how was your last weekend? How was the week? Anything crazy happen?
Well, I was going to say we need the rant graphic when Alvin Kamara dropped the first pass and then went backwards for 5 yards on the second pass. And I think he even dropped the third pass because I tweeted both of you. I said, get the rant graphic ready. But then, of course, Alvin Kamara was Alvin Kamara. So that hit.
Yeah,
It's been hot and cold here. The Randy Arozarena train for the Tampa Bay Rays continues to roll. And when it comes to over on total bases, he has not gotten a hit in just 2 games so far this postseason. And on DraftKings, you can get him to have 1 hit at minus 139 or so. So once again, as we've always said, make sure to shop around because you can find values depending upon what book you use.
Yeah. Andrew, how was your weekend last weekend? How'd everything turn out for you?
It was a pretty good weekend. It was Canadian Thanksgiving, so I was away. So, I was a little bit lower volume, did my prep during the week, but decided, hey, look, it'd be a lot less stressful if I could just have, 1 or 2 plays to look at there. And, just didn't really have too many props last weekend, but continuing to kind of, look at some theories that I've been having. And I think, guys, looking at those RBs taking on really, really good teams seems to be a continuous winner. I mean, the winning teams when they take on bad teams. I mean, those running backs are getting the ball in their hands, and it's a strategy I'm going to be looking at a couple times here on this show. So it was a pretty good week. Disappointed though, Andy. I missed doing the NBA props. Obviously, NHL is long gone now, and the MLB. I think Matt and I can both agree right now. The strikeout props better to look at unders these days versus overs now.
Yeah, Matt, we were talking just before we went live about Snell, who's going tonight. Any thoughts on that matchup?
Well, once again, it matters where you look because earlier today, and it's funny because I have some clients who've been in touch who are, they're on Bet Online, and Bet Online's been down. Apparently, there was some sort of server attack or something, so they're not on. But I went to Pinnacle this morning, and it was over 4.5, and then it was heavily juiced to the over, and it must have kept going because now it's over 5.5 with a juice to the under here. So make sure to shop around. But this is an Astros team that has not struck out more than 5 times against a starting pitcher since September 21st. Now, the streak is due to end at some point, but you see the Astros, they're making a lot of contact and making a lot of pitchers work. And the Rays have no problem with their starting pitchers only going 4 or 5 innings and leading to that great bullpen. So it's a potential value there on the under for Blake Snell.
What's so crazy is I'm looking at DraftKings and FanDuel right now. This prop is minus 160 to the under on FanDuel and minus 134 on DraftKings. So it's such a huge difference in price. So with these props, man, there's so much volatility in the market. You got to shop around. So I was okay. One bet I did lose, which really irked me, was I had the Panthers score over 26 points, and they're inside the 5-yard line at the end. Do they go for the touchdown? Nope, they kneel.
Yeah.
So
those ones are tough, Andy. Those ones are tough.
You could see it coming too. Like as soon as Mike Davis took the ball and ran and didn't go out of bounds, instead he takes a knee, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose for them taking a knee. So, all right. So good stuff for baseball. And let's just jump right into NFL. We got a crazy week of football with a bunch of rescheduled games. We have 2 on Monday night. So look for Chiefs-Bills to start at 5 p.m. Eastern, and then Cardinals-Cowboys at 8:15. So don't forget about those 2 games. Andrew, I'll start with you. Any games that you're really, really itching to look at because you got a good feel on it?
Well, it's I hate to have a similar opinion to somebody else in the panel, but I already know based off what I saw Matt talking about on the WagerTalk Today show. He's looking at this Jets game, and it's funny to look at a Jets game in general, but I'm looking at Myles Gaskin in the exact same way that Matt was during his appearance there on WagerTalk Today. And it's funny, I think I talked to you guys maybe actually on my first week doing this show with you guys about how I picked up Myles Gaskin on my fantasy football team. And the reason why I bring it up is because he's just not lethal with just rushing, but also in those short yard receptions. I think that really helps you. And if you can get that prop, for the combination of receptions and yards, it's really going to help you out. So, looking at him going up against a team like the Jets, you got to imagine that those numbers are going to just continuously come up. I mean, 21 touches, 16 times, 57 yards and a touchdown, also adding 34 yards with, receiving yards. I mean, this is something that you can't really ignore. But also in that exact same game, I think, Matt, you were touching on the team total under repeatedly for the Jets. I'm looking at the under 1.5 touchdowns. It's been at a plus price countlessly. We haven't really seen that much improvement. That prop bet will be 1-0 with Flacco. They've got Gore. Lev Bell is gone. The list goes on. And we use Steve Merrill. He talks about don't try and catch a falling knife. I'm not. I'm going to avoid that falling knife as far as I can and just continue to go with what's been working. I like Gaskin to kind of continue that theory for me with the running backs against really crappy teams to get a lot of touches. He's already getting more and more touches per starts, per games. And I like that under 1.5 touchdowns. And, you look at that as far as the point spread goes with this game in general, Miami's defense has gotten better and better. But I think to myself, this Jets team could cover the game, but if they do, it could be on, one touchdown and a few field goals. I can't see them getting in the end zone twice during this game.
Let's see, Matt, any games that you are looking at that you got your eye on?
Well, of course. I'll go to my Eagles and the Ravens. And there was a stat yesterday. I was listening to Philly Sports Radio that tight ends against the Eagles, quarterbacks have just 5 incompletions throwing to tight ends and 5 touchdown passes. So they have as many touchdown passes as incompletions throwing to tight ends. Mark Andrews, we heard from a Bengal player after the game last week that basically said, look, all Lamar's doing is looking at Brown and Andrews. And so to me, I'm looking at Andrews to score. I'm looking probably at his over for his receptions. I don't know if it's out yet. And then potentially, look, we know that there's the backup guys in Baltimore. I think Nick Boyle's still there as a backup tight end. So if you want to sprinkle a little bit on them to score a touchdown, you could certainly probably find some value. Certainly, I think one of them is going to score, and I think Mark Andrews will be busy. Nate Gary, who's a linebacker for the Eagles, they are 23 for 23 targeting him so far this season, and that Harbaugh's going to do so.
Yeah, I played Ebron over. I saw that Philly stat as well, and you look it up, and they're brutal against tight ends. It's like they're the new Arizona Cardinals. The tight end props against the Cardinals used to be money. I think they only had Ebron at like 37 yards, and I'm looking right now, Matt. Mark Andrews, that prop is out. He's at 47.5 yards receiving. So
what
these
receptions?
How many receptions?
Yeah, because remember, I'm a
your receptions guy.
Yes, which is weird because I took the over for the yards for Cole Beasley on Tuesday actually, and that was rare. Mostly, the only reason why I took the over for the yards and Cole Beasley is because the receptions weren't out yet, and of course, as we got close to the game, the receptions came out too, so I put that in there as well. But that was the one time I think this year I've taken the yards.
We had a question there. They want to talk about Ezekiel Elliott. Now that it's the Andy Dalton show, Andrew, are you thinking that they're not going to change the offense? Or are you thinking that Zeke may get an extra workload? Because he really hasn't been that great in terms of total yards rushing. I'm looking, and it's pretty crazy. He has not gotten over 100 yards yet this year. He's got 96, 89, and 91 last week, but he looks lethargic. Do you think you see an increased workload for him, or you think Dalton uses his wide receivers just like Dak did?
Well, Dak uses his wide receivers when he's down 25 points and pads his fantasy football stats. But anyone that's been, I'm mad at myself even just hearing you say that I didn't take more prop bets on Dak's completions because he would probably get half of those in the fourth quarter when they're playing prevent defense. But no, the answer for me is no, and I could be completely wrong. But sure, he's going to get more touches, but I don't think they're going to completely change their game plan until Dalton proves them otherwise.
Yeah, Matt, you expecting big things from Andy Dalton?
I think there's a chance, yeah. I think Andy Dalton's going to have more time in the pocket. Chandler Jones' injury is pretty big for that Cardinals defense, and I don't think they change as much. I think that this is a passing team. I think they're going to probably be in a fast break type game against Arizona. So, no, I don't think so. But remember, Andy Dalton liked Michael Gallup the most when he was in. So I think we might see a lower number on Gallup that we could take advantage of potentially. But Dalton and Gallup had a nice connection in that little spurt that they played together.
I'm looking it up now. Gosh, the books believe that Dalton's going to air it out. He's at 289.5 yards. That's his prop total. That is a big number for his first game as a start. But I got to say, I would lean the over. There also is something. I can't remember what the exact stat were, but I know he does not throw the ball he didn't throw the ball to Zeke hardly at all last week. So I wonder if maybe playing Zeke under those receptions might be a good one. So, all right. Let's see. Any other questions in the room? No. You talked about the Ravens and the Eagles, Matt. I did want to say I have a play that I really like. I'm playing the Ravens over 13.5 points in the first half. The only game they didn't hit this total was against the Chiefs. They just love front running against bad teams. Last week, the Eagles gave up 17 first half points to the Steelers. The Eagles give up 114 yards rushing. Ravens are the third best running offense in the league. It doesn't seem to match up well for them on paper. So I like the Ravens to get off to a hot start. That's kind of their MO. That's what they like doing. So that's a game prop that I'll be on.
I've seen you cash that, Andy, and I would agree. It's better to look at their team total first half versus full game because they will slow it down.
Yeah, Carolina was on pace for a ton of points. They got out to a big start and scored one field goal in the second half. So, yeah, we'll do the first half when you get these teams that love getting up big. We have some interesting match. I mean, we have the Falcons and the Vikings, just two awful teams. But I don't know, Matt. Are sometimes these two bad teams matched up against each other? Is there extra value that you can find when you got two bad teams going?
Well, I mean, I think you load up on Alexander Mattison, everything. Once again, rushing and receiving. I think he's going to fit in nicely. We've seen what he's done in the past, and he's a guy that will catch the ball out of the backfield. And we know that, I don't know what the updated number is, but the Falcons are one of the worst teams when it comes to allowing receptions to running backs. So to me, once again, it comes down to you must find rushing and receiving yards because I think there's some value there taking the combined number for Alexander Mattison.
Yeah, it's amazing. There really isn't that much of a drop-off from Dalvin Cook to Alexander Mattison. That is one hell of a backup running back that they have. So, Andrew, a couple of other really bad games. I mean, Lions, Jags. Whew, yikes. Not a lot of people are going to be tuning in for that. Any value in any of these guys?
Well, it's funny because I've been talking about overs with this Jacksonville team, but it's just been based off the fact that they've had some injuries, at the defensive position. And now I'm going to take it into a prop part of it and just look at Kenny Golladay over receiving yards. The number I'm looking at is 65.5 receiving yards, minus 125. Three guys out, Miles Jack, CJ Henderson, and Josh Allen. And this team, we could look it up right now. This team is getting scored on. I think, 25 or 30 points. I mean, Jacksonville has given up points, and it is the Detroit Lions. And who knows? This Lions team might find a way to lose, just like they do with every single game. But the fact of the matter is, I think that we'll see Golladay after obviously he had some problems and injuries early on in the year, but I think he'll become a pure target and favorite again here this week. And that's a low number in my opinion, Andy.
Yeah, Matt, boy, James Robinson. Oh, what an egg that was last week. That was a letdown. I'm not off of him though. I'm still part of the fan club. I'm not going to be off him, but it was amazing how that number jumped from 78 to 94 just in 1 week. So
I keep thinking Andrew has a stuffed animal on his lap. Someone said
he's just really happy to see you guys. That's all.
Well, if Andy would make the screens bigger, they would actually know it's a mic.
It's as big as they get. You guys are great out there. Give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Matt, you're a huge Eagles fan. Is there anything? You obviously follow them as close as any. Is there anything that's sticking out as something that seems to be hitting every week? I think there's a lot of. I think people, if they follow one team in particular, I think they end up a lot more knowledgeable than they might expect. So, are you seeing anything that's consistently hitting with your Eagles?
The amount of times I'm angry per game, that's definitely an over. The number of times I use the F word on Twitter is definitely an over as well. If you're betting
I know lately, Matt, when you have a bet on a game, like I can just tell. Like I knew right away what your 5% was weeks ago with the Patriots, and I knew it was the first half because of how mad you were in the first quarter. I was like, this can't be a full game wager with how pissed he is right now.
No, yeah, it was a first half, and of course they went to a second half. But the thing I'll say is Zach Ertz has been very concerning in terms of I think he's moping over his contract, and I think time has catch up a little bit to him. Now, look, it's not to say he couldn't have a huge game, but he's not the guy from 2018 that had over 100 catches anymore. So for the people who blindly think, well, he's the number one target on the Eagles, he's got to get catches, that's not necessarily the case. Now, Travis Fulgham, he's facing a competent secondary this week. So if they inflate the numbers, I might look under because he's a guy that's going to go up against, I don't know if Marlon Humphrey travels or Marcus Peters travels, but to me, the numbers are going to start getting inflated on Travis Fulgham. And at some point, somebody's going to be like, hey, maybe we need to cover that mediocre wide receiver.
Yeah. Someone asked about Tyler Boyd receiving too high. It could be. Check the injury report. I believe Darius Leonard is doubtful. I don't think he's going to play. But the Colts, gosh, are they so bad to watch? I mean, Phillip Rivers trying to throw out patterns just is painful to watch. You could write a letter in the amount of time it takes the ball to get there. But yeah, the Colts defense has been pretty good. And man, the Bengals cannot protect Joe Burrow. There's one. See if you can find a defensive sacks and play the over on sacks against Joe Burrow if you can find that one, because this Colts team will get to him. That offensive
At least
line
he's learning how to slide now, Andy. I saw something and it's like he's like, hey, sorry, man, I'm still bad at it. And it was a little compilation showing how he doesn't even know how to slide yet.
I don't know how you can be an NFL quarterback and not get your body into a sliding position. It's like don't we all learn this as kids? I don't know. I have a buddy.
It took Michael Vick to do it forever.
Yeah, that's true. I guess.
But he actually had legs. He had wheels.
He could always outrun somebody. He had to learn that in the later part of his life. So yeah, I just thought of that one. But yeah, see if you can find a sack total and don't put your hard-earned money on Phillip Rivers. Just don't.
Never.
Andy, I never I never really get to mention anytime touchdown scores just because I like to have the odds, even if I really liked one. It's something I just like to see anyway when I'm presenting it. But how about Chase Claypool? I mean, I'm talking about him because I'm Canadian and I love to see a Canadian have success, but I'm pretty sure it's still like a plus 150 or plus 160 for him to get a touchdown this week in a pretty marquee game after dropping that many touchdowns. It's not even just a touchdown mark. It's the fact that he seems to be, or even receptions, Matt, looking at something like that, it seems like he's a favorite, a target now. And I know some people might say, oh yeah, it's an overreaction from one game, but I think it's not that, because the value that I'm getting with this plus price, because I did see a few people tweeting it out and I looked it up for some shops, the plus price on this, it's pretty juicy here for the fact that he just had an outstanding performance.
What do you think, Matt? Brown's defense good enough to slow him down, or was that just a 1 week?
So, I think it's a 1 week thing, because if you look, he had 6 receptions the other 3 games combined, and there's still Juju, and there's still James Washington, and maybe Deontay Johnson. I don't know if their injury report came out yet. And then there's Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald. And I think it was a matchup that he took advantage of, and I think the books may overinflate him in terms of receptions and yards, and you may get some value on the under, because remember, he had 1 target. He had 1 catch against Houston, 3 against Denver, and 2 against the Giants. So I think it's the hit or miss life of a 4th wide receiver.
Nice. Marquee game, the Packers, Buccaneers. This is going to be a great game to watch. You got that really, really good Packers defense as well as, the good Packers offense and the Buccaneers defense. I'll be excited. Andrew, what do you think? Do you like thinking the better offense is better than the defense, or do you like leaning more towards the defensive side?
Well, I wish I could just tell you, hey, look, I'm a Packers fan, so keep me out of it. But look, I think when it comes down to it, you've got one quarterback that, and I've never said, yeah, Brady's old, Brady's washed. I'm not saying he's washed, but evidently, whether or not the run game is going to be open for the Green Bay Packers or not, it's a clear mismatch in the throwing game from the quarterback standpoint. And you look at the Tampa Bay Bucs defense, and you can sure say, hey, look what they're doing, but Green Bay can pick apart any team right now, it seems. I would look at Aaron Jones under rushing yards, though. I think it's going to be and maybe completions for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that seems like kind of a square bet with the way he's been playing. But I think it's going to be a complete, shootout. But Tampa Bay is not going to want it to be. if that makes any sense. Tampa Bay does not want to get into a trading touchdowns against this Green Bay Packers team. I would look at some under rushing props for the Green Bay Packers. I think it's going to be a complete throwing game in the air for them.
Matt, you agree? I tend to agree with Andrew on that one. I've been liking betting against running backs playing the Buccaneers. And I noticed something that happened on Thursday when they were playing the Bears. They just stopped running the ball. They just gave up and they said, "All right, we're not even getting to the line of scrimmage before our guys getting hit." So you get the good defense, and then you also get teams that just kind of give up on the run. So what do you make of the Packers game?
Probably, but I also know that no Vita Vea means the middle of that defensive line is wide open now. I mean, he was a big reason why at least the middle of the Buccaneers defense was not available. So you take him out, now you have a different defensive tackle, and maybe he doesn't garner the same attention. Now I'm looking at Aaron Jones's numbers here, 71, 69, 66, and 168. So I could see Andrew where he's saying that, but I'm just saying that Vita Vea not being there may to tick those totals up just a little bit.
Yeah, hasn't topped 72 yards rushing in 3 of his 4 games, and now dealing with the Bucs.
Night game on Sunday as of now. Rams and 49ers. Yikes, 49ers. I told you last week. This is before they lost to the Dolphins to bet them to not make the playoffs. They just got a world of hurt. I see the Raheem Mostert prop it feels low at 67 yards. Matt, my initial thought was before doing any research, I like that Raheem Mostert because they're not going to be throwing the ball a lot. So thoughts on that game?
Well, I mean, the Rams defense is tough to run on, though. I think that Mostert is good for, he's not going to get 8.2 yards per carry like he did last week. And then, the Jets, he did really well. But then against Arizona, he had 3.7 yards per carry. What's funny? I don't actually do a lot of rushing yard props. It's so fickle when it comes to something like that. That's why I always combine the rushing and receiving, or I'll just take touchdowns instead. I rarely use the rushing yards prop.
Yeah, the reason I asked is they don't have the rushing receiving number out. They do have. That's
one day we'll get this show going on a Sunday morning, eh?
Yes. So, Andrew, what do you make of this crowded backfield with the Rams? They got a 3-headed. I don't think I would use the word monster. They have 3 heads. So, anything with the Rams?
Am I wrong here to say Cooper Kupp receptions? I think that you could.
Not if it wins.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you don't think twice about certain things like that. And I think that he'll definitely get involved. And what Matt said, I do agree with that. And unfortunately, Mostert is definitely going to be someone that I'm sitting on my fantasy team this week, just based off the fact that I believe that, I also would take a look at over touchdowns for the Rams. But at the same time, I think that San Fran, they're going to want to try and run the ball I think they're going to try and run the ball on the Rams because they're going to want to slow the pace down. The Rams have proven that in second half, when they need to, when they want to get into that kind of style, they can put the ball in the air, and Goff can do that. And I don't think the 49ers are going to want any part of that. I think Kupp gets his receptions, and I think it's funny because I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I know you guys were touching on it last week when I wasn't on the show, but the whole debate as far as receptions or yards, and it's different per each guy. But I think with Kupp, he's the kind of guy that could be a guy that gets in the end zone or gets a 10-yard grab, and that's it for a key first down, something of that nature, versus some other guys that are going to be out there for maybe a couple catches, but could be for 70, 80 yards. Kupp is a guy I wouldn't be surprised to see him reach his receptions over, but not get a hell of a lot of yards. Okay. And that's with a guy that usually can, go pretty deep as well.
Cool. All right. Mid-major Matt, you say you got an idea for a big topic.
Okay, so like we do the quote-unquote big topic every day, every week as we try and educate people. I just want to know, and I'll throw mine out as well, what websites do you, not the props, but what websites do you use for your information that you use to decide on the props? Like, we're not going to do, eventually next week we're going to break down a prop from all of our different eyes and angles and stuff, but what websites do you guys use in order to decide what props you're even looking at?
I'll go first. I really like, if I'm looking at a running back or a wide receiver, I like ESPN's layout because you can just type in the player and game log. So if I'm looking up Ezekiel Elliott, you just type Ezekiel Elliott game log and it shows you all of his games by number. I don't like looking at just season totals. I like seeing the breakdown of the game, and it's easy to navigate. The most annoying thing is those effing pop-up videos that if you're wearing headphones will blow your eardrums out. To me, ESPN, if I'm looking at just individuals, I will start there. And then I'll maybe, just Google like opposing team defensive numbers. So, Andrew?
Yeah, for myself, I'd say, like I said, I do a lot of I correlate fantasy football. That's why I bring up my team in somewhat of a joking way sometimes. But looking at fantasy football, you can really look at, hey, who are the weak defenses? Who are the guys allowing this many yards per carry? And it really helps not only your prop betting, but your handicapping in general. So I look at RotoWire quite a bit and those type of sites. For the quick information, because they give you information that would be useful for betting, but it's also fantasy perspective as well. Let you know if it's a good idea and what they project a certain player to be getting that next week. Also, a pretty basic one that was used for numerous sports. You guys all definitely use this, but Pro Football Reference. I just love the old school look of the website. I just love how it literally looks like it was made like 30 years before I was born. It's one of those ones, and it's just, I love simple, stupid websites. Something that's not really hard to find information. You click what you need to find, it's right there. And with the amount of stats every day on First Pitch that Tony and Matt and Dave and all these guys have, it's hard for me to remember some of these or spit them out. But using a website like that, I find that in numerous sports, if you have a question or you're curious about a guy for a certain stat, Pro Football Reference or Baseball Reference is a good one to use.
What do you use, Matt?
I will say that I go to Yahoo has a very good thing where they do fantasy points against and break it down by position, and then they'll do each player by position, which I think is really helpful, at least when you look at like the receptions and the targets for running backs and things like that. And then, I'll give a shout out. There's a website, Fantasy Pros. They have two great articles every week. There's one called The Primer, which is huge paragraphs on every major player with statistics and stuff like that. And I like to kind of compare that to what I'm thinking. And then there's another guy on Fantasy Pros who does projections and then writes littler blurbs on each player in each position. So to me, I'll basically go and correlate what Yahoo's fantasy thing says and then these two articles on Fantasy Pros, and that's where I get my stuff before I even look at the props.
Nice. Good stuff. I like Howard in the chat room. He said he uses us. Thank you, Howard. That's a very, very good reference. All right, let's move to Monday night. We've got the Bills and the Chiefs that are going to be playing. I did hear on a podcast today that Le'Veon Bell is probably not going to play. He's because of COVID. I think he needs a quarantine for a few days, so he may not be dressed, which is a bummer because I would have loved to take him under. I think the numbers are going to be pretty high, and I don't think he's going to play as much as people think he will. I don't know. Matt, that was an interesting decision for them to go after Le'Veon Bell. What do you expect from him moving forward?
I think he'll be a solid 10-touch guy. But remember, Andy Reid wasn't afraid to sit Sean McCoy in the Super Bowl last year. So I don't think just because Le'Veon's a veteran, I don't think they're just going to give him all the touches because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be their guy going forward. So I think you look at him on Monday night. I haven't looked at the Bills against running backs yet, but I think this is his last chance to be that big guy. So, back to receiving yards. And he's actually not doing as well rushing the ball, too. So, like, people would think, oh, well, he's doing really well rushing. No, he's actually not. So, to me, if you are going to play him, he's another guy you would do the rushing and receiving combined.
Yeah, I have him on a fantasy team, and you are right. He is not doing very good, particularly inside the red zone. I believe on the season he's minus yards inside the 20-yard line. He hasn't even gotten to plus yards. And I believe it. Every time I see him get the ball inside the 5, it's just cringeworthy. I don't know if the blocking's not there or he's doing something wrong, but they really look bad. So
look, that's a move that's like, hey, I want to win. That's what that move is. I saw numerous reports of people talking about where is he going to go. And Matt, I loved your tweet when you were saying, yeah, if you bet the Eagles, you might as well burn that money. But, with that type of thing, it's literally it's kind of like a basketball player moving to a different team. You're sacrificing play time because you want to win. And it seems like with a guy like that, even though he has a little bit of an ego and attitude problems, he just wants to win. So he's going to be able to sacrifice that to be on a winning culture. And that's what it seems like. So obviously the numbers and the odds are going to reflect that. But would you agree, Andy, like based off that, it kind of proves to us like, hey, he's fine taking the backseat?
I think first off, there has been no evidence that Le'Veon is even really great. Like he's not even good. I mean, I know he's been on a terrible team, but that's a lot of miles on his body. And we've seen this when guys move to other teams late in their career. It normally doesn't work out that good. So first off, just for him to be successful, we have to have the assumption that he's good. And I don't think he is. And let's face it, most people are going to look slow when they're on the field compared to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think if he goes out there and has a bad to mediocre first game, you're not gonna see him get as many touches. So I'm just not convinced that he's going to be good. Maybe he's a short yardage specialist because Clyde's been so bad. Maybe they brought him in for that. But I just don't see a whole lot left in the tank for him. I would be ecstatic to get some high numbers on him for the unders, especially rushing. Mm-hmm. So, Andrew, anything from the Bills that you like? Josh Allen has been a pleasant fantasy surprise. Him and Stephon Diggs. I did not see this coming from them. Anything you're going to be liking this week? You think this game's going to be a shootout?
That was the weirdest segue ever. I was literally just going to put in our private chat, hey, can we talk about the Bills game? I shouldn't even have said that, but it was pretty smooth. I was literally just looking up some stuff. But, yeah, I think in general it's good to look at a guy off a struggling week. And, using a phrase, like I said, with Steve Merrill, always his favorite phrase, don't catch a falling knife. But it's not really a falling knife. It's just a very weird game. We saw, the 26 completions against Tennessee. The irony is that's actually the second most he's had all season long. The other three were 24. And then first game, of course, against the Jets, it was 33. But let's face it, I've been saying this for a while now. And when you're playing a team like Kansas City, you're gonna try to slow the pace of the game down, but you're not going to be able to. You're going to have to throw the ball. And I mentioned the completions, but how about the yards? First of all, his completion percentage was 63%. Worst by far he's had so far. Against Raiders, 70%, Rams, 72%, Dolphins, 68%, Jets, of course, it's the Jets, 72%. But I'm looking at the passing yards. I mean, that was just the most embarrassing low number he's had so far, and it was 263. Obviously when he played the Dolphins and he played the Jets, 415 in one and 312 in the other, that's where you tip your cap and you say, good for you. But I think in this one, you're going up against a team like the Chiefs. Are they having a great year, guys? Is Mahomes having a great year? If you're speaking of fantasy, if you're a fantasy owner of Mahomes, are you having a great year? Are you winning your matchups? Because I think that they're going to be locked in too. There was an ESPN commentator saying, yeah, it looks like Mahomes is just bored out there in the first half. He's not going to be bored here in the first half in this one. It's a big game for both these teams, and I would look at the passing yards over for Josh Allen.
Nice. Last game on the docket that's scheduled right now, Matt. You got Cardinals and Cowboys. Interesting matchup. You've got Dalton, and then you've got the Cardinals that have struggled a little bit. What do you think? You think we're going to see a lot of points, or is this going to be a sputtering offense type game?
Well, let's go back to the Bills-Chiefs game for a second, because sure. I think the two injuries to watch are Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano. Without Matt Milano, Travis Kelce, and even though they set inflated numbers, Kelce's almost a guarantee to score, and he's going to probably get close to 100 yards receiving, because the Bills got gashed by Jonnu Smith last game. They're not very good against tight ends when he's not in there, so that's something to watch. And then Tre'Davious White's their number one. We saw what Josh Norman is right now. He's a shell of himself, so therefore, if Josh Norman's the number one, I don't know necessarily if it's a Tyreek Hill week. I don't know if it's a Mecole Hardman week. But remember, there's no Sammy Watkins. So those are two injuries that you need to watch, because without them, then I would even look at the Chiefs team total over and things like that, because the Bills defense is a shell of themselves without those two guys. With regards to the other Monday night game, I mean, I'm going to go back to all reliable, DeAndre Hopkins, and go his over on his receptions. I know last week the yards hit, but the receptions didn't. It was one short. But I mean, to me, you're just going to see a lot of DeAndre Hopkins in this one. And the Chase Edmonds props are also rather interesting. I have to see how the Cowboys do against running backs, but Chase Edmonds has kind of usurped Kenyon Drake as the pass catcher out of the backfield there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Kenyon Drake. He was really good at the end of the year. I expected much better things
He's
for him.
Kenyon Drake. That's what happened. He's not that good. He never has been that good. He was good last year because they didn't really expect it. That's what Kenyon Drake is. So harsh. I like to think of the running back half full. Okay, so well, he's not full. He's a fumble.
All right. So yeah. Okay. Chase Edmonds. I can get behind that. Andrew, what are your thoughts going into this one? 289.5 yards for Dalton. God, it seems like a lot.
I mean, am I wrong to just say go ahead with the team total for Arizona? Because that's what I'm looking at. That's what, wash, rinse, repeat. Let's get a shootout, boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Look at team total, 27.5 for the team total. Yeah, not bad. And it's not hardly juiced at all.
In a normal world, if it wasn't 2020, Andy, I wouldn't be giving that out. But it's 2020, and we're seeing overs hit at an enormous rate. There's been a little bit of movement down. But the this Dallas team, they're not going to win any lower scoring games. And I'm sure if we had some guys that just talk strictly about numbers, they'd be sitting here saying to me, hey, Andrew, it's that time of the year. The bookmakers are making their adjustments, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Not with this. Not with this.
Gotcha. All right, Matt.
Do you agree? Do you agree with that? Like
with what?
Would you argue? I mean, with this Dallas team, I mean, what happened in that college football game last night? Obviously, this is a little bit off topic, but come on.
Yeah.
What was there, a live total of 107.5 points?
Oh, beautiful. It was beautiful football.
Yeah. I took the live at 90.5. I couldn't believe it. I did. I was like, I can't believe I'm live wagering 90.5. And then it hit like a few minutes later. So I mean, listen, I'm not going to be playing the under on the Cardinals team total. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know. I'll look at it and see. So, but I definitely got my eye on a lot of props. I got a good feeling about this week. So, Matt, we can find you on Sports Memo. What do you got for this weekend?
Well, I mean, I've been bit by all the postponements and in college football, so my card will probably come out later on tonight. I just got to make sure nothing big happens over the next couple of hours or so. But college football card will be out. And then here's the other thing, and I talked about it briefly on WagerTalk today, and I know you guys may agree. I think it's good to get in on the props on Saturday because everybody wakes up on Sunday and they all want to bet overs. And the overs that you want to take on Saturday are minus 110, and they're minus 150, minus 160 on Sunday. So I try and get mine out on Saturday night. That way you can beat the rush. Because, I mean, don't you guys agree? Everybody just wants to bet overs, and then the plays that you want to take are going to be juiced ridiculously.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I wake up Saturday mornings and start doing my player prop. I'll probably start doing some after this show. So, all right, that is Matt on Sports Memo. Andrew, what do you got for us this weekend on WagerTalk?
Yeah, it's looking like just two plays for me. One side, one total, but also a pack of props. And I've been doing a lot of the free content for the props. Obviously, this show, but Twitter and that kind of stuff. But definitely starting to chop things down and select my couple favorite ones. So I'll have a package with just props and a package with just a side and a total. And just like Matt said, it's such a good point because I have people asking me, because everybody knows friends that bet. You were talking about how we all have buddies. We talked about it off air that bet, and I literally just say to people that I know that ask me what I do. I just tell them, hey man, just don't bet the day of the game. Don't bet the day of the fight. Always, if you're betting 20 minutes before the UFC fight starts, you're already losing. Just try and get those numbers and try and be prepared, not just 20 minutes before the game starts. So, and it definitely with those reception props, I've noticed, Matt, because some of these props we're going to just see like kind of like a pick 'em, yes or no kind of thing, or under over. But with those receptions, that number is going to get juiced up.
Yeah, and no, because as we said, this is like the Super Bowl props. We'll talk about it obviously when the Super Bowl comes, but no one wants to bet unders because the Super Bowl is not for, hey, I root for incompletion. So get it before everybody else wakes up and does it, because that's the public that's driving it up, not necessarily the sharps.
And it is, sorry, I forgot to mention UFC. I do have a 5% play up in the UFC. And for a while, I was only just doing one play a week in the UFC, and there were 4% plays, and it was a 14-2 run. Those 4% plays, and then the play, which you do know, Andy, what it is definitely worthy of a 5% play in my eyes. And I did lose a 5% play just yesterday. So anybody watching the show that was on that play, they can use their credited wager bucks and go towards that. That's the best part about WagerTalk and about the wager buck system. Gives a chance to kind of earn some money back for the clients. Nice.
Well, boy, Andrew, I got to really disagree with you about betting before the fights. Being a guy that hosts a UFC show that is completely hinged on betting right before or during the fights.
I'm not saying I don't do it. I just mean like if you're loving one or two. Like I have one or two that I'll do the week before, like the week of, like my 5% play. But you're crazy if you don't think that I'm betting. I was at Thanksgiving dinner, and we had it Saturday night. Usually it's Sunday or Monday. My girlfriend's brother whips out his phone after the dinner's done. We're at the table. He sets it up. We start watching the fights. I get my phone out, open up my sports betting app. We're just betting on the fights while his grandma, aunts, and uncles are all around. You better believe that I'm betting on some knockouts just for some entertainment.
Oh, such a degenerate. I love it. That's great. So, yes. So Takedown Live, early start. They're starting at 4:15. So if you're getting UFC picks, get your bets in now. I have a package up with a couple of fights, and then we will be on Takedown Live. That's on the new YouTube channel called Takedown Live MMA. We'll be doing live bets and all that stuff. NASCAR. I went 2-0 last week. I'm trying so hard to hit 70% of my head-to-head matchups for the season. I'm at like 67%. Really, really close. Golf's going on now. And then, of course, we'll have the props up. So, all right, I think we covered all the games. I cannot wait for our Super Bowl prop episode. That's going to be like a 4-hour marathon. That's going to be amazing. So thanks, everyone. That'd be so great. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. That's Andrew. That's Mid Major Matt. I'm Andy. Don't forget, Matt is on Sports Memo. Andrew and myself is on WagerTalk.com. Good luck. Hope everyone